All right. So we've done a couple videos for the channel. Gonna start making that a thing. I think the next video I do is going to be on the BattleTech role playing game, MechWarrior Destiny. A lot of people seem to really like that game. It's a really good game. It's definitely a game that I um, condone, or whatever the word would be. So, yeah, definitely it needs way more love. And, I'd already done a video on it before, but I need to redo a video and actually take notes down so that I can really, really knock it out the park, make something nice and succinct, but at the same time, very informational. So, yeah. And I'll tell you why, because Battletech Destiny is a good game. It's damn near the perfect Battletech game. Damn near. There are a few things that could be changed. And like in the rules, you can exchange XP for C bills and stuff like that. And you guys have probably already heard me complaining about I wish that XP and C bills were two separate things. But hey, there's ways around it. Like, for one thing, if you got your hands like me on a copy of MechWarrior Second Edition, you can just use the um, attributes or whatever in MechWarrior to do the looking at something real quick, to handle the money part of running a mercenary lance or what have you. So,
who are you talking to?
I am talking to whoever is listening on the other end of my computer. Who are you talking to?
You?
How are you doing, Mom?
Good. Is anybody on the other end of your computer?
I don't know, but when you walk around here, they will see you because it is recording. So if you don't want to be seen, don't
I
walk
don't
in
want
front
to
of
be
you.
seen.
Why not? You're pretty.
My beauty would blind them.
See, somebody's watching. There's James Lowry. See, he said hi, James.
Say hi.
Hi, James Lowry. Yeah, my mom was being
That
nosy.
Jim?
They're getting ready to go get a Christmas tree because my wife is like super like hardcore about having a live Christmas tree. Like, if she left it up to me, we would go buy some kind of cheap fake tree. Just that would be what we'd have every year. Just some kind of cheap fake tree, but it's not up to me, you know. You know how it is. It's her house. She gets to make some of the rules, and uh, in good news, I did get one of the box sets for Blackbeard versus Maynard in from Firelock Games. That's good news. I got one of them. The bad news is the one that I ordered that they actually sent me, I ordered like a month after I ordered the other two. So I really don't know what they're doing with their lives. But I will show it to you, even though I'm not going to open it. Because if I open it, I'll want to play with it, and then I won't get done the things I want to get done. But this is Blood and Plunder. It is on sale for 1/3 off. The price of this thing, especially compared to like Games Workshop box sets, is insanely affordable if and only if you're really into Sid Meier's Pirates or whatever. Of course, they give you rules to use this game to play the 7 Years' War, pretty much any war that happened between the 1600s and the 1800s. You can use the rules and everything here for. But this is the 2-player starter set. It comes with the map. It comes with 2 sloops. So like the one I've been building. It comes with 2 of those. It comes with a softcover rule book, a miniature that represents Edward Blackbeard Teach, a miniature to represent Lieutenant Robert Maynard, 25 28 millimeter plastic soldier models with weapon and head options. So these guys can be done up as any particular nationality or just straight up pirates, which is really cool. Activation decks, because this game used poker decks for activation decks. Comes with 2 of those. It comes with a Belandra and a Bermuda ship card, which I already got, but it comes with more. A 3-foot by 3-foot sea and land mat, so you can flip it over, and on one side it's land, and on the other side it's sea. A turning gauge for your ship, a stink pot gauge, which I'll be honest, I'm not sure what a stink pot is. I'm assuming you chuck a pot full of sewage or something at the enemy ship, and they call it a stink pot, because that would be pretty rough. Like,
Yar!
yar,
Go,
hey,
Minnie! Ready to
like
plunder the
if
7
you had
seas?
like a big, like, let's say you had like a big ceramic pot full of just sewage, and you chucked it at the enemy ship,
That would be fun.
that would not be good. I mean, that would be stinky, and plus you might give them diseases.
Yes.
But you get your stink pot gauge, you get a wind direction gauge, you get 2-sided punchboard terrain for buildings and stuff.
It's even better if you put fiberglass in it.
You get 6 die tins, you get a bunch of tokens for marking things, and a measuring ruler. And it looks like the decks you get, one of them has skull and bones on the back, and the other one has the Union Jack. So this was under $100.
That's cool. Oh, wow. That's a big box, too.
Well, because it's got 2 28 millimeter sloops,
Yeah.
24 multi-part figures, 2 officers, and all the other stuff. So if you compare this to what you would get for that amount of money from Games Workshop, it's like,
Night and day.
You know.
That's a lot. That's a lot different.
James says he likes the sculpts and the terrain. Like I said, I'm not opening it yet because I want to get this airship done. And if I open that box, I will not get the airship done. I
Now,
know.
James, I want to play a character that is called Bojack, and he's a pirate.
It is what you think, and also sometimes powder and sulfur to be a bomb. Wow. So yeah, that don't sound good at all.
Yeah.
And they have rules on the webpage for pretty much every kind of ship you can think of that might have been sailing the ocean in the 17th and 18th century.
Like a now?
Like Naus, Tartanas, Zebics, and then of course, you know,
A
your more
barge?
well-known galleons and frigates and
Yeah.
freaking merchantmen and whatever. I mean, all of that's there.
Schooners, sloops.
Well, yeah, that's what this guy right here is. This is a sloop.
Yeah.
But they also have schooners, which kind of look like this, but they got the lantine cells.
They're
And they
much
can be-
bigger, I think. I think they're a much longer ship. It's like a very long one of those.
Well, it depends. They could be
Mhm.
1 to 3 masts. So I'm sure a sloop with 3 masts, you're right. It's probably pretty damn long.
I had a sloop in Uncharted Waters.
So,
Online.
well, the reason I put the big square cell
Really
on
good
the
trade show.
front mast, which this normally doesn't have in the instructions, it doesn't have that square cell on the front mast. But I was playing Sid Meier's Pirates, and the ship that I had, which was one of these, had that cell on it. So I'm like, well, if Sid Meier's Pirates had that cell on there, I'm going to trust Sid Meier's, and I'm going
I
to.
almost want to go back and play Uncharted Waters New Horizons again.
I am still missing a cell, Iron Man, but thank you. On the front, I'm going to be running another line, and there'll be another Lantine cell that kind of overlaps this one like that.
Yeah, they have that sometimes, I think.
Yeah. So I've got the cell already made. I just need to run the whatever. But this guy otherwise is pretty much done. I mean, it might need a little touch up, but you can see it's, you know, whatever. I might take some iced tea. I might make some iced tea and then paint the cells with iced tea just to give them that kind of weathered brownish look, you know.
Yeah,
And then, of course, I've got to run all of my lines, but that won't be hard because I bought a spool of elastic black thread.
Now all they have to do is watch out for the ship with black sails.
Right. And then after I'm done with that, I'll have to finish the light frigate, which is twice as big as that easily. But right now what I'm doing and what I want to finish before I get involved with anything else is I'm painting the cloth on my windship. The last one I did green. So this one, I'm going to do red. Just so that, you know, you can tell them apart. And, you know, I've done like tons of Talislanta characters and, you know, the players have picked the characters they want to play, which are a bunch of weirdos. And so at some point in the future, see, Hungar's like, let's just stop playing the One Ring right now and just switch to Talislanta. And I'm like, dude, you guys are literally in the middle of an adventure. That's not something I want to do. But like this guy right here is a Goliath barbarian. But when I'm done with him, he's going to be a thrall warrior. And that just means I need to paint a bunch of tattoos all over him, like Maui. Right? I see what's happening, yeah. You're face to face with greatness and it's strange. You don't even know how you feel. My wife is making a big pot of chili today. Pretty exciting.
What can I say? But hey, you're welcome.
Yeah. What can I say? But hey, you're welcome. Sun, the sky, and the trees. Yeah, I think Moana is my favorite Disney princess. Because she's the only one that's not like super annoying. It's like, yeah, she went against what her dad told her, but she kind of had to, you know, it was a quest. But like, if you look at a lot of the other princesses, they're just like bitches.
What about Mulan?
Mulan was good too. Fa Mulan was actually really good.
One thing is, that was the time where you could actually make a flawed character and use those strengths for that character.
Well, and the thing with Fa Mulan or the Mulan animated thing is it was all about learning and growing and becoming more capable and fitting in, and you know what I mean? Whereas the live action, she was just born some kind of superhero or something.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I said you couldn't make Mulan anymore.
But in the animated one, Mulan couldn't do shit or ping as he went by. Kind of sucked at everything. All the other soldiers were always, you know, like messing with her and whatever. But then over the course of months,
it's not even like she gained like real, like, you know, the masculine strength. She used her advantage, like what she had as advantages,
right?
Too.
She used her brain to figure out ways around things, how to, like, because when she climbed the pole, she didn't brute force that.
She tried and then failed. Then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this way, and it'll work fine.
Right. She finessed it. So that was a really good, you know, a really good thing. But like a lot of like the Little Mermaid is the worst Disney princess.
Yeah, that one was
She
bad.
is just terrible. It's like, what the hell? You know, it's like she's constantly not listening to her dad and making deals with sea witches. And why? Because she saw some dude and just immediately went head over heels for him. It's like, really? You're not even the same species. So what is going on with you, right?
Heck, the actual fairy tale that story came from did not have a happy ending either.
No, it did not. Whereas Mulan, everything Mulan did was to save her dad from
Yep.
dying. So she was really cool. And Moana, everything Moana did was to save her people from starving to death, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, right now, guys, as you can see, these are, and I've said it before, these are from the Eberron stuff. But I always refer to Eberron as the Wish brand of Tauslanta.
Yep.
So I'll just use them for Tauslanta for wind ships. And I may even use my big Martian air galley that's up there for like a big wind ship in Tauslanta. But yeah, you can tell that the guy who wrote Eberron
Never heard of the Tempest.
had basically read Tauslanta a lot and then tried to figure out a way to make Tauslanta a D&D setting, which
Oh, your mic went out. Still out. Try unplugging it, plug it back in. Nope, still out. Jeez. Oh. Still nothing. Dang it. No. Dang it, I forget. I don't have my camera anymore. Did you accidentally mute yourself, or is it just the mic just stopped working?
I
There it
somehow
goes.
muted, but not in the normal screen, like in the little screen where Little Mermaid was a ripoff of The Tempest. I thought Little Mermaid was originally a Danish story.
Maybe the Disney version was more of a ripoff of The Tempest.
Right. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the actual story, The Little Mermaid, probably predates Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And it had a horrible ending.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like the Little Mermaid did not get the man, and like she died, and everything sucked.
She turned into foam.
She could have got her legs back and she killed the prince and his new bride.
Right.
But she didn't. So she threw herself in the sea and she drowned because she wasn't a mermaid. And then she turned into an air spirit because she sacrificed herself for them.
Huh.
The one I heard, she turned into foam when she threw herself in the water.
Yeah, like a little air.
Yeah. That's basically kind of, I guess, the same thing.
Yeah, I remember that because she didn't. I don't think she had a. Yeah, she. It was a really sad little story.
Well, the way they did Ariel just pissed me off.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like, just listen to your dad, you dumb bitch.
Did you get your recyclables out?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, the recyclables are out. I've actually entered the emptied that garbage can and then refilled it, so I need to take it out again.
To be fair, Snow White was not any better either.
Well, Snow White
He
wasn't
kept on
bad.
falling for everything, though. I mean, somebody
What-
what you did, and then you know what? This nice old lady, just take the apple. After
No,
having
see, Snow
multiple
White's
attempts on
problem
her,
is she was just so trusting.
she's way too naive.
Well, of course she would be, though. I mean, she was one, like 15, and two, had been raised a very sheltered life.
Oh, fair.
So it's not like she actually knew anything. No one had ever
True.
told her, hey, if you're out in the woods hanging out with a bunch of dwarves, whatever you do, don't take apples from freaking witches. You know, she didn't know. She just didn't know. Hans Christian Andersen wrote the story based on Tempest. Not sure about earlier, though. Okay, Armin.
I want to see about this now.
Stir the chili.
Okay.
I shall come back and taste it.
Okay.
Stay there.
Well, Bear will not be happy because his mama's going to get the Christmas tree. So he's feeling all abandoned. But yeah, I'm not opening my box of Blood and Plunder because I'll get sucked into it. And my biggest problem, and if some of you guys can relate, you know, it's that I have a tendency to start a project and then start like 3 other projects. And that continues on in a horrible, horrible cycle in which I never get anything done because I'm constantly putting one project aside and starting a new project. And it's like a big wheel of never getting fuck all done.
Okay, I think he's right, actually. I think it was Hans Christian Andersen that was the first to make this story.
Okay.
Again, I thought it was earlier myself, but I can't find anything about it.
Hey, you know who doesn't really care? This guy.
This
Don't
guy.
really care. I just did not like Ariel in the animated series. And guys, I raised 2 little girls who are now, 30.
How about Heracles?
So I had to watch all of those movies. Hercules. I actually like that.
His name should have been Heracles since they went with the Greek pronunciation for every other god, but apparently they just went Hercules.
Because they were making it for basically people who knew nothing about anything.
Not fair.
Little kids. Like a little kid might have heard of Hercules, but probably had no idea that
His real
in
name
Greek
is
mythology, there was a
he was-
Heracles.
yeah.
I will say this too about Milan. Milan had like the best music.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It was like when the one guy's the captain's singing at him and make a man out of you and all that. That was just like amazing,
Reflections.
Yeah. And of course Eddie Murphy as the dragon was hilarious.
Yeah.
Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow.
I like the granny also.
Oh, the granny with the lucky cricket.
Yeah. She's
Just
like closing
walking
her eyes.
across the highway.
Yeah. It's like
She's like,
Definitely
see,
a lucky
good
one."
luck. And there's like a pile up behind her.
yes.
Everything's wrecked. The freaking love you, Mom. Yeah. Yeah, my brother and I played, I think I said Vampire the other day, and I was playing Zamichi, and he was playing Ministry, and he got wrecked.
Well, congratulations on your win.
Yep, I was pretty happy.
Yesterday I was having a good time on War Thunder.
I actually downloaded and Hungar downloaded Medieval Dynasty because you can play it co-op now with up to 5 people on one map.
Oh, neat. I don't know.
I don't know if you ever seen it before, but basically you build a town and you could get people to live in your town and pay taxes, and and
Okay,
run
good.
around and do quests
I
and
was afraid
unlock
that it was
better buildings and
I was
whatever.
afraid that it was going to be a lot like Age of Empires. I'm not much of a fan of Age of Empires. I tried it.
No, it's a first person game.
Okay.
So like if you want to build a house, you got to go out and gather up X amount of rocks and X amount of logs and sticks and
Neat.
straw, which you get from like reeds, and then you have to make a hammer, and then you use the hammer to make the house. And then having the house is good because when it snows or rains or something, you can go in the house
And you're not going to die of
and not
exposure.
die of exposure, right? Which is a good thing. And now they've made it where you can play
How about
with
that?
different friends on a map. So
That's neat.
Hungar was all like, I've been looking for something to play, and I'm like, all right, we'll co-op some you know like I know the map like the back of my hand, so I know exactly where the mines are and everything like that.
If
So
anything, maybe this might happen someday, but one thing I hope is that Warhorse Studios will make a Kingdom Come that you could play multiplayer.
you never know, they might.
I know. That would be cool, though.
Yeah, that guy was on Twitter the other day, like roasting the shit out of
I know. That was hilarious.
the new whatever that Dragon and Dragon
Dragon
Age
Age
Bell
Veilguard.
something. Yeah, he's like, funny. My game's been out for 7 years and it has like 4 times as many concurrent players as this new game.
Yeah.
And they're all like, imagine being a game designer and like ridiculing your fellow game designers. And like, so they all start trying to attack him, but
It didn't work out. I
it
mean,
didn't work out because, one, the guy's like a foreign guy anyway. He don't give a shit.
yeah.
I think he's from the Czech Republic or something.
Yeah, he's actually from like Czech Republic.
Yeah, so he's all like, whatever, get bent.
Yeah.
You
like
made a horrible game, and my game, which you all hated on when I released it,
it's still
still
going
doing
fine.
better than your horrible game. So
The funny thing is, they didn't have as many resources or any of that stuff, and it's still a lot better of a game.
yeah, it was like the tiniest of tiny little studios and a couple of guys with a dream.
Yes.
A dream of making a medieval warrior who could run around and hit people in the head with a mace.
Well, more like a medieval peasant that you can eventually make into a warrior, so you can hit them.
Right. Right.
Because when you first play that game, don't try to fight anything. You're going to die.
Yeah, that's how Medieval Dynasty is. It's like if you're running through the woods and a bear jumps you, you're just dead. It's like, good luck. You're
Although
dead.
there is someone who kind of broke the game somehow and is able to now kill off every human he comes across in the prologue of the game.
Damn.
I know.
But
It's like,
yeah,
let's play Henry as if he's
eventually
already...
though, if you get like bronze or iron weapons and shit, and you make yourself better armor and stuff, then if you run up on a bear or wolf in the woods, you beat it to death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the beginning, when you're running around in like, a linen shirt and barefoot.
Although I did have a weird glitch happen to me recently in that game.
What's that?
I was doing the amorous adventures of Hans Capon, and one of the last things it had me do was try to distract the father of this one woman that he wanted to court.
Yeah.
Well, I got into a fight with him because I messed up on something. He chased me down a little bit. I had to fight him, and after getting him off my back, a guard caught me, started talking to me after I surrendered to him because I didn't want to have that on me. I just wanted to get it over with. And whenever he started talking to me, it launched me into the air.
Yeah, that's a hell of a glitch.
Yeah, I landed off on the other side of the castle and was just stuck on the side of the castle for a bit. I had to walk my way back to the door, to the entrance.
Yeah.
And then fix my wantedness problem.
Whereas me, I've been building houses, and at some point, I'm going to build a hunter's shack, and then I'm going to go into town and see if I can't find some peasants
I think
that
it's
want to
also
move into
rebuild.
my new town.
I also got to rebuild Provisovitz on there
There you go.
and become bailiff.
Yep. And then if I can get some people to move in my town, I can assign them jobs. And they can like start harvesting fur or feathers or whatever, which I can then use to make,
That place cost me a
other
lot of
stuff.
money. Crush on the garden. No, it doesn't mean that. It just means my character flew into the sky. Just
Your
lots.
character's got a crush on the guards. Well, I mean, probably not during the period that game takes place.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the church would consider that some kind of heretical thing and probably burn you at the stake or something.
Oh, there's probably a few things that I've done in that game that wouldn't have been completely kosher.
Well, I mean, what church are you dealing with? Is this the Latin church or the Orthodox church?
That's weird. I'm not sure because they talk about Pope. I'm not sure if they meant that in.
If they're talking about the Pope, then it's the Latin church because there's like this weird demarcation amongst Slavic countries.
Yeah, I think we're in
where
the
it's
Latin
like,
church then.
But the Czechs, I'm not sure. I mean, within the Czech nation today, they are the Slovenes, who are Slavic people somewhat related to Russians.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of your Czechs are German. So.
Well, that's weird because if so, then we wouldn't be on the German side on that one because we hate the Germans. With like your character actually hates the Germans.
Yeah, but just because your character hates the Germans don't mean you're not ethnically German.
Oh, fair.
I mean, at that time period, there was no nation state of Germany. There was like
Because your character
54.
starts off like siding with Wenceslaus and hates Sigismund.
Exactly. Sigismund, I think, was the leader of the Holy Roman Empire.
Yeah.
And Wenceslaus was like a Slavic guy for, I think, Slovakia.
And what were the Cumans exactly? Because I can't remember.
Cumans are basically Vikings with peller skin.
Okay.
Or not Vikings, Mongols.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's.
Yeah. When the Mongols actually invaded Russia and everything, they pretty much either wiped out or absorbed the Cumans and the Pechenegs and pretty much all those other horsey guys that had been running around.
Makes sense.
Either got wiped out or absorbed into the Golden Horde. Which...
Yeah, again, I'm pretty sure the little drunken bender that we go out with, that one preacher guy, was probably not the most kosher thing.
Well, I mean, there's nothing about drinking. You're just not supposed to do it to the point that it can cause other sin,
Yeah, I kind of went that far.
To everything in moderation, right?
Yeah, well, I think we went a little far. We were.
Because if you think about it, a lot of the beer and wine and stuff way back in the day was made.
Because that night starts off where you're fighting the bailiff, you're picking up a few winches.
Yeah, but I'm saying a lot of the alcohol back then was made at the monasteries.
Yeah, I know.
I used the Cumans in my chili, Iron Man. Brother, avenge me.
Faramir
Hey, Hungar.
would have went up to Denethor and been like, Father, I met a halfling, and Faramir would have been like, or not Faramir, Denethor would have been like, Boromir would have met a holy.
Yeah.
You know it's true.
Denethor was not a fan of... Well, it's not that he didn't love Faramir, but he was just like...
He sent for Boromir.
You knew who his favorite son was.
Hey, Hungar, I got a question for you.
What's up, buddy?
If you lived in medieval Bohemia, would you go on a drunken bender with a priest and pick up winches and fight the bailiff?
I would have probably been a priest.
He would have been the priest you went out on the drunken bender with.
Yes. That makes all the sense.
Fun.
Because you have to remember that Hungar is the second son. So
Yeah.
had my family been of nobility, Hungar would have been sent to the monasteries.
Yep.
And that way he wouldn't have to worry about,
I guess I would be too.
yeah, because that way it would avoid any sort of land grabs or,
Land complaints. Just
yeah, the oldest son inherits and the,
English is weird on that one, I guess, because the oldest son will inherit most of it. Then the second one will get a little bit, and then the third one, well, you're on your own.
right. Well, in a lot of the medieval countries, the younger son, the second son, a lot of times would go to the monastery, but not every time. I mean, sometimes they keep him around just because his dad liked him.
Because wasn't that what happened with John, King John? He was supposed to be the second son, but whenever his older brother kind of got captured, he just
Yeah,
took
it's called
everything over.
usurping.
But he did get a little
When
bit of land
Richard
before that.
Went away on the Crusades and then got captured by the Holy Roman Empire. He's like, well, I guess I'm king now.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, hold on a second.
Hold on a second.
I don't remember agreeing to this shit. I used the cumin in my chili, though. That's funny. Yeah, but in medieval time, the cumin were basically European Mongols. Like they fought the whole thing, but they were more European than Asian, maybe even Turkic. And they were a real big pain in the ass for anybody wanting to do trade north of the Black Sea, like the Pechenegs. But when the Mongols actually showed up, they all kind of vanished. Like that meme where you see the one black dude standing by the hedge.
Yeah, it's just
he's like that, and you just see him freaking, vanish into nowhere. Because the Mongols basically were like, here's the deal. You're going to follow Batu Khan or we'll just kill you all. And so a lot of those guys were like, let's think this over. Follow the Mongolian Khan or die. But for whatever reason, that whole region, Ukraine and all the lands north of the Black Sea, all the way over to like Armenia, there were like scores almost of horse warriors there. Whether it was the Avars, the Pechenegs, the Tartars, the Khazars, the frickin' Cuman, the Huns eventually, moved through that region. It was just the region that horse warlords like to roam about. And, now I forget which one it was that supposedly used to actually kill and eat people.
The hungry ones.
It was all just a con game. Yep, the hungry ones on those days. Yeah, they had to be pretty hungry. But apparently, according to some of the stories of people that lived there were tribes of the horse lords that would actually kill and eat people.
Man, I'm gonna have to find another game to play soon. I'm about done with Kingdom Come.
They ate a lot of food in freaking Mongolia.
I just wanted to finish it before the
Well,
second.
the Mongols didn't eat people, man, that I know of, because they would milk their mare and then they would put the leather bag full of mare's milk under their saddle. And then at the end of the day, it would be cottage cheese, basically. It would turn into cheese curd. So they were pretty smart. Every Mongol warrior had like 3 horses, and they preferred mares to stallions because the milk.
Yeah, stallions don't taste very good.
One wants to ask how you know that.
I'll stick to my new horse that I got. That's called Shadowmere.
Yeah, Hungar's in there saying stallion milk don't taste very well. And I'm like,
Yeah, James, the DLC did add 3 new horses. I want to ask you, which one would you choose? Shadowmere, Aggro, or Shadowfax?
I mean, I don't know. Shadowfax. Wasn't that Gandalf's horse's name?
Yeah, that's the reference.
I read Tim Wallace's biography. That's how I know about that.
Oh, ugh.
Well, Shadowmere is actually from, I think, Oblivion.
You're disgusting and should be ashamed of yourself.
A lot of the horses are actually references to to other games.
That's cool. That's really cool. Okay, so at some point I need to do something with these Irishmen here.
Again, my favorite was the Epona one, but Epona's not that good.
Like do their shields and hair. See, that's what I'm talking about. I have so many projects. It's like I've got a unit of Irish warriors I need to do.
Hey, Squirrel Hermit.
The Squirrel Hermit. Heyo, how you doing? Squirrel. Hungar just yelled, Squirrel.
Squirrel Hermit would definitely be the one going on a drunken bender with the priest.
Would he?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't know. Is he the oldest or the middle son?
I don't know.
He might be the priest. So I bought, I don't know, 500 of these. They're little metal things with a little hole drilled through one side. And it
I like
turns
to
out they're
use
stainless
them,
steel,
actually.
so magnets don't stick to them.
The weird thing about that, though, is also the priests and the priest was actually talking about, John Hus, the Hussites.
Yeah.
So if they were Catholic, wouldn't that be an issue?
The Hussites?
Yeah, the Hussites were those that we're so fond of Catholicism.
I don't know. I mean,
Well, they did defenestrate a few Catholic people.
I don't know. Yeah, Hungar says since I have like 5 bags of these things, I should make some scale armor or something out of it.
I mean, don't you remember the 3 defenestrations of Prague, which I think they were probably in the middle of one of them at that time?
I
Game was
do
out.
remember hearing something about defenestrations in Prague, but no, I don't remember exactly who was involved.
Yeah, the Hussites were basically being persecuted by the Catholics. The Hussites got really upset about it, started
Chucking priests out of windows? That's one way to
Yes.
handle it, I guess.
There was this one guy who was sent by, I think, the Pope, and they threw him out the window, and the guy survived by falling into a bunch of horse manure.
Hey, it's soft, it's warm. I mean, who's to complain?
I know if it was cow manure, it'd be right up the Indians out.
As if we never threw cow patties at each other.
Oh, we did.
We did.
See, he'd be the one on the drunken bender with the priest.
Started by 20, expanded to 120. Impressive work. Yeah.
Yep.
And like the guy said on Twitter, apparently they have more concurrent players than the brand new Dragon Age Velgard.
But if there's anything, James, you need to look up the history of those defenestrations. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. If anything, I need to keep you on task.
Sorry.
That's what I need to do. I need
Yeah.
to keep you on task.
I get a little bit distracted by things.
Hey, so do I, man. I'm the king of getting distracted by things. That's like my middle name, distracted by everything.
And me, I don't pay attention to anything, so I'm never distracted.
Yeah, Hungar's never distracted because he just don't pay attention to anything. So he's like, eh. But yeah,
Oof, sorry.
that's okay.
Having a snack.
So yeah, Hungar's downloading that game, and at some point later, maybe we'll try it out. We'll start a new village and see how it works with 2 players working together.
Yeah, I can't wait. This February is going to be awesome when that game comes out. The
Kingdom
second-
Come Part 2.
Yep.
Yeah, you know.
I'm-
And I remember, man, when Kingdom Come came out, people were ass hurt like crazy.
Yeah.
How you doing, Muktuk? Long time no see.
What was the
Because
game
they're
you
like,
and Hungar
everybody's
did
like, what do
again?
you mean I can't play
Play.
black person in 16th century Bohemian Czechoslovakia? And it's like, wait, what? I remember getting involved in that war on Twitter because I was all like, are you asking, like, seriously, why you're not allowed to play black people in Central Europe in like 1600 something. I was like, and they're like, there were black people there. And I was like, I don't think there were.
No, no, there weren't.
I mean,
I
I don't
mean-
think there were. Maybe in London, maybe in Byzantium.
You might. And here's the thing: big asterisks might see
Right,
one
you
in
know?
Prague.
It's like when I was up in the little town I was in Kentucky, I was there for 2 weeks and never seen a single black person.
Yeah, you probably won't. I mean, I've seen a
So the
black
idea
there
that there
once.
would be like just black people crawling all over the mountainsides of Central Europe, 500 years ago, I don't know if that's a thing. I think that that's some wishful thinking. And of course, all the people bitching about it, none of them were black people.
Yeah, I mean, James, I could maybe see you seeing maybe, and this is a big maybe, and I'm probably going to say I wouldn't believe it, to see one in Prague. That's about it.
Yeah, but you got to remember, though, even back then, Prague was nothing.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Bohemia was like a tiny little piece of shit area.
Yep.
No one really cared about. If there were going to be any African merchants, they would be in Byzantium, Rome, places like that.
Yeah.
Like what in the hell were they going to trade for in Bohemia?
Nothing.
No.
There was nothing they wanted there.
Right? And that's assuming the Bohemians wouldn't just kill them on sight anyway.
Also, James, what was that game you were playing?
Oh, I was talking about Medieval Dynasty.
Medieval Dynasty. Yeah, I was trying to remember the name of it.
Yeah, you basically get to start a town somewhere in England or somewhere, and then you do quests, and you can get NPCs to join your village, and then you can put those NPCs to work. You can get married, have kids. The other villagers can have kids, etc. And then you got to pay, the landowner rent for the area that you're living on.
Not a terrible price right now on it either.
And so you eventually end up, being like the lord of your own village or whatever. But until then, you just run around chopping trees down and hunting rabbits and trying not to starve to death. There's only one cheat that is like an absolute, for me, must when I play the game. And that's I turn the encumbrance off.
Encumbrance off. Fair enough. That is the thing that gets kind of annoying in Kingdom Come. Everything has to wait. So that...
Yeah, like you pick up
Random
3
thing.
logs and now you can't walk. And it's like, damn it. And I need like 50 of these logs to build this building. So it's like, no, I can't do that. That's hard mode. Sorry. But
like, I picked up this apple. Now I'm over encumbered.
Squirrel, boo. Yeah, Squirrel, I don't know how often because I don't remember actually seeing you on Twitter. But back when that game released, Twitter was a freaking war zone.
I was outside of that because I didn't have Twitter at the time.
Well, it was the people demanding that there be
Black people in Bohemia. Yeah, I know.
be all these ethnic people there versus the game designers who were saying, no, we're
That's
not
not
doing it.
historically accurate. We
Also,
don't want it.
the historians and the armchair historians like me who were like, to be honest, I mean, there wouldn't be any.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a single wealthy Ethiopian or North African or whatever person who would ever be like, you know what, be cool. Let's go to Central Europe. A place that's like in a state of constant warfare and also pagans and Christians wiping each other out all over the place. I mean, can you imagine if you were like an African or North African Muslim and you wandered into freaking Bohemia, Slovenia, Poland, any part of the Kievan Rus Empire? It would just be like, yeah, just go ahead and kill yourself. because that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah.
And then these people would always argue, but it's like you've got that group of people, and I'm not even saying this to complain, but you do have this group of people who are convinced that like half of England's nobles were black people. And every now and then they're on Twitter and they'll be like, a lot of people don't know this, but Anne Boleyn was actually black. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure she was from Austria.
No, James.
I mean,
Almost half the English nobility were a bunch of black lesbians.
right. And I
Just
was
don't get
talking
it.
to this guy who actually works for Modiphius on the Star Trek range, and he's a nice guy. I'm going to say this. So if you guys know who I'm talking about, because I'm not going to drop any names, but he works for Modiphius. He's a black guy, and we were talking, and he was a really nice guy, but he was one of those guys that was absolutely convinced that like all of Greek mythology and everything was actually Africans.
Look, it's not about the loot.
And
It's
that
just,
white people showed up and like stole all the history, like Hercules or Heracles was a black guy. And his argument was, well, there are no lions in Greece. And it's like, actually there are.
Not anymore. Hercules good.
You know what I mean? It's like, but he was a nice enough guy. So we would debate back and forth a little bit. But there are those guys online that are like,
I'm not a loot goblin, Mike Tuck.
it's like they've got it in their head that everything that ever happened in history, black people did. And then some group of white people like showed up out of the blue and just started like altering all the history. And it's like, that doesn't seem like it would be possible. Like this group of people show up and like erase all the real history and replace it with this fake history.
Oh,
I
they
mean,
do it all
it
the
just
time.
doesn't seem. I agree, Kyle. They don't learn actual history, which means they're actually shorting themselves, because rather than try to make all European history black, learn African history. Learn about Musa Mensa and the Ethiopians. And
you mean was it Massaminsa or something like that? I don't know. Maybe.
Whatever it is, the guy who basically, destroyed the economy of North Africa.
Just by throwing all the gold around everywhere.
Well, I mean, he sold a lot of slaves and he had a lot of salt mines.
Yes.
So there you go. But yeah, I think but this is an old song and dance, and I've sung it and danced it enough, I think. But it's like the idea that
James Muktuk is calling us a loot goblins. And I gotta say, I do not agree.
he's full of rage because of
Below that though, damn.
Hey,
loot
Jose
goblins.
Pablo. It's like it's weird because they'll make a Viking TV show and they'll replace a Scandinavian with a black person, but they won't make a show about
Actual African history, which would have been
actual
probably more
African
interesting.
history, which
Like Chaka Zulu, Mansa Musa.
is very interesting.
Yeah.
Like the closest they got to it was the scene in American Gods when Anastasi's on the slave ship and convinces all the slaves to like burn the ship to the ground. And the slaves are like, but we'll die too. And he's like, that's okay. You're a sacrifice. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's as close as they ever got to like, I mean, because we all know the thing with the female warriors was absolute bullshit. Like absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
And those Igogi warriors or whatever got exterminated by French sailors. So if you're supposed to be the elite warriors of a country and a bunch of French sailors get off their boat and wipe you out,
That's an embarrassment
That's just embarrassing. I mean, that's just embarrassing. But yeah, I mean, there's all these like the different African gods, and all of these tribes, and Shaka Zulu, they called him the Conan of the savannah. Yeah, Shaka Zulu. Shaka Zulu starring Ryan Gosling as Shaka Zulu. No, but you know what I'm saying though, right? And even D&D, which back in the day would do like Al-Qadim, Mastika, Kuratur, never would touch Africa. Unless you count North Africa, and the Arabian part of that is something. It's like, but they would never touch it. And it's like, why?
Part of it, I think it's mainly because not many people actually study or learn about it. It's kind of relatively just not explored.
See, that is a good and just reason, but I think it's just that they're afraid.
It could be also that they're afraid. I mean,
I think they're just afraid because if a game designer were to actually sit down and make a game set in sub-Saharan Africa where you played, one of the mighty warriors.
I'm going by old stuff because old stuff. I could see it more being about just no interest in it.
Yeah, but
People
hear me
didn't
out.
pay attention to it.
If you were that guy that was brave enough to sit down and make that game, right? Would you also be brave enough to catch all the heat that you would catch on social media? Because no matter how you depicted the African tribes, the different classes, you're racist automatically. And if you're white, you're just triple racist. But even if you were black, you would be racist. There's just no way to ever do a fantasy setting.
Like for me, if I was like actually interested in the African setting, I probably would have made it. I'm crazy though.
Yeah, you would have made it for like home use. Because if you release that shit to the public, forget about it. They would pillory your ass. You know what I mean? And that is a big issue. So now you have Black British knights and nothing about the Nubians who were doing civilization thousands of years ago, the Ethiopians who were very, very civilized people a long time ago. Ignore Congo area because they're a bunch of savages running around eating each other, but Africa's a huge place.
Yeah, Africa's a huge place. You're gonna have a lot of weird.
It's actually bigger than North America, but on the map, North America looks bigger. But it has to do with how they made the globes or something.
Yeah.
They make Africa look smaller than it actually is, and North America looks bigger. But anyway, yeah, archaeology still. Yeah, but Jose, I would say that has changed a lot in modern day. They're digging up like all over Turkey.
That's one thing though, because if it was so Eurocentric, would they really want to go for it, like go study Egypt stuff and all that back then too?
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I've said this before, and a lot of people can disagree, and they are welcome to. But everything north of the Atlas Mountains in in Africa should just be considered South European.
Yeah.
Because that whole region from Egypt over was ruled by Europeans for like the last 3,000 years.
Yeah, Rome.
Yeah, between the Greeks, the Romans, Macedonians, the Goths, and Visigoths.
Yeah.
So if you want real Black African culture, you got to go south of the Atlas Mountain. Yep. The Arabs who went there back in the day disagree, James. What do they disagree about? The Congo being full of cannibals or what? Because the Arabs, the main reason they went to sub-Saharan Africa was to capture slaves.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. That's what they were doing. As a matter of fact, it was up until the 1800s before we could get them to stop. Adapt any map with long and lines is faked, is it? It's
not
not
about
that
being
it's
faked.
fake. It's just when you take a globe and flatten it out, it distorts.
Yeah, it's about distorting
What you're looking
distortion
at.
more than actual flat out fabrication.
Yeah, it's nobody's trying to make Africa look little just because that any of the Africans were remotely civilized. The Ethiopians were. I mean, supposedly the Ethiopians, they're the ones that hid the Ark of the Covenant. And they were also one of the very first nations to accept Christianity.
I don't believe the Ark of the Covenant thing, but hey, maybe they do have it.
How do you know you don't believe it?
I don't believe it. I don't believe they have it.
But they could.
They could. I'm not going to say they couldn't, but I just don't believe it.
The quote goes along the lines of, these people are animals, they farm no crops and eat each other. Yeah, some of them were that way. Yeah, that's true. And maybe that's why we'll never see an African source book for any version of role-playing game. Because maybe the idea that you're a guy running around with a copper-tipped epi, killing and eating your neighboring tribes is just not a role-playing experience that most people want.
Or then later on, just enslaving them.
Or maybe you play the Arabs and your whole deal is just showing up and enslaving the shit out of them.
No, there was also other African tribes that also enslaved and sold people.
Well, of course,
things.
the Dahomey and all them were enslaving everybody they could. So,
got to get those guns, you know.
You know what though, Jose? You mentioned Atlantis. I was watching a show on YouTube the other day, and the guy lowered the sea level by 30 meters, which is what they think around and about it was lowered back in the Ice Age. And guess what? A continent appears in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So, of course, you know, all of the UK and everything like that was once just Daggerland or Doggerland. So, I mean, you know, the idea that Atlantis existed back in like those days, and it was actually in the Atlantic, is a possibility if you lower the sea level by 90 odd feet. Actually, it'd be more closer to 100, but still. You know, and that's the thing we never remember is like during the Ice Age, the sea levels were super low. And then when all that ice melted, everything said, you know, and then you get stories of floods. Of course, you get stories of floods because the Mediterranean wasn't an ocean back then. You could walk from Europe to Africa. And then one day some ice melted and boom. The Mediterranean appears, and anyone who was living in that region just got drowned. You know, and anyone living in all that land of Doggerland between, you know, the mountainous regions, gone. Right? And anyone living on that island in the middle of the Atlantic, gone. You know, it's weird what 100 feet of sea level can do.
Also true, Squirrel Hermit.
Slavery has and is about capitalization of the weak. Yeah, race is not even true, Squirrel Hermit. Before we developed the technology to travel great distances, people just enslaved the weak people that lived near them. So white people had white slaves, black people had black slaves. You know, it was just the way it was. The first Maori king was called Atlas. That's cool. I didn't know that. The Atlas Mountains are in North Africa. Yeah, that's true. And the Maoris lived from Algeria to Mauritania. Atlantis was the land of Atlas. You could be right. I'm just saying, I was watching a show where they lowered the sea level to where it was back around, you know, 20,000 years ago or something. And it was, there was a continent in the middle of the Atlantic.
Here's something though. what has been the best fiction written about Atlantis or made about Atlantis?
I don't know.
For me, my favorite's always been the Disney cartoon.
Oh yeah, where they yeah.
They go search for Atlantis, Atlantis, the Lost Empire. I love that.
Yeah.
That was a fun
Yeah.
movie.
They had like technology and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
I can tell you that for the most
not
part,
a bad movie.
that movie didn't even really have a villain up until the end.
Well, you had the one filthy like Italian guy that was a miner. Didn't he try to betray him or something?
No, not exactly. It's more that he was with the Rourke. Rourke, I would say, was only a villain up at the near the end when they discovered Atlantis wasn't just some ruins. Rourke was the main villain after that. But yeah, the entire group was basically going to just plunder a ruin. Then they found out that there was actual people, which I think gave the rest of the group, except for Rourke and Helga, I think was her name, a little bit of a pause. Like Helga even had a little bit of a pause on that. She's just like, there were supposed to be people here, and he's like, yeah, it changes nothing.
Well, I mean, if Atlantis was anywhere and then it sank, then the Atlanteans could have ended up basically anywhere. They could have ended up in the New World. They could have ended up in the Old World, or both. I mean, if that's like something you're seriously like, wanting to be like reality, I mean, who knows? I mean, the Aztecs could have been the survivors of the Atlanteans.
Maybe.
And maybe that's well, I know the reason, but you could argue maybe that's the reason that the South Americans had, all the stone structures and everything. The actual reason is that the South American Indians immigrated there across the Pacific Ocean. And the North American Indians immigrated across the Siberian land bridge. And that caused, so basically it's two entirely different peoples.
Yeah.
And that's why the North Americans, other than building earth mounds and stuff like that, never really built much of anything. Whereas the South Americans, those cats were building like giant statues and temple structures and roads and mountains and like, they were building tons of stuff, and it is because it's just two different civilizations. Oh yeah, Jose, we've talked about that. Yeah. About the Sahara being a green, lush area. North Africa was like a rainforest. And then something happened and that all went away. That's why people argue about the Sphinx and a lot of the ancient Egyptian buildings having like weathering on them from rain. They are descended from the Lemurians. If you're a Mormon, they're the Levites and the Nephites. But I think the Nephites wiped out all the Levites. They were actually like members of the Jewish tribes that had came across the ocean at some point or other.
I found something funny about that, actually. One of the apparently one of the South American countries believe that one of the apostles actually made it there.
Well, I mean, the Aztecs had the god Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, but anytime he took a human form, he always looked like a white guy with a beard. And it ended up not doing them too much of a good thing, because when they first met the Spanish, their immediate first thought was that it's Quetzalcoatl. You know, he's come back from wherever the hell he's been or whatever, right? And then they were like, hey, we're going to serve you up a feast of our finest children. And the Roman Catholics were like, yeah, you guys got to go. And they made alliances with all of the tribes that lived near the Aztecs. And then they wiped them out because, you know, that's what you do. Yeah, there was a lot more water. There was rainforest. To this day, they find like all kinds of animals and like petrified wood and shit like that in the Sahara. Like the remains of these animals that it's like these creatures should never have been here. And yet here they are, you know, because yeah, at one time there were trees and birds and, you know, it rained and everything was awesome. And then some stuff happened, whether it was the earth tilting or aliens shooting us with a death ray or God just getting mad at all the people who lived in that area. Whatever it was, you know, take your pick. The Sahara, over the course of many generations, slowly become a desert.
Yeah, but to be fair, Cal, the horses weren't a thing in America until the Europeans came here.
You're kind of right.
Kind of.
In
Oh,
the
okay.
old days, like the Paleolithic and Neolithic period, there were horses in America.
Okay, fair.
But then they all got wiped out. And no one's 100% sure why they got wiped out.
But they did. So,
Like,
you know.
yeah, but they did. Whether we ate them all until they were dead or whatever happened.
Why would you eat
And
the horses,
then
though? They could have been
the
useful.
Spaniards brought more horses. They also brought pigs.
Ah, well.
Were not native to the New World.
Ah.
And some of the pigs got loose, and therefore every wild pig anywhere in the United States is the long lost descendant of the pigs that were brought across by the Spanish.
But yeah, the apostle I was talking about, apparently people
Eastern
think
Africa is breaking off and will form an inland sea. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be weird. I mean, because look at Madagascar. It's like everything on Madagascar is just weird as shit.
yeah, maybe there's going to be another thing like that.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people talk shit about how Australia is like such a weird place. Australia has nothing on Madagascar.
Yeah. One thing, though, back when I was talking about that whole thing, the apostle was Thomas. People think that Apostle Thomas actually made it to America somehow.
Yeah, the problem is the Apostle Thomas, who did work alongside Paul, it was Paul that wrote all of the things that were credited to Thomas.
Yeah, I know. I find that weird, and it's like, I wonder how this theory
Well,
came to be.
again, the Mormons believe Jesus came across and talked to the Native Americans. And then there was a civilization in upstate New York, which was white people. And they had a city that had a population of around 1 million. And they were Bronze Age. They had horses and chariots and like all that shit. And then the Nephites, which were the red-skinned Americans, decided to wipe them out and did. And that city, and I know this because I have some relatives that converted to Mormonism, that city supposedly had a population over 1 million, right? But the problem that, you know, people run into is you can go to the mountain there where the city was supposed to be and dig as much as you want, and you'll never find anything brass, any horse skeletons, or, you know, you would think if 1 million people died somewhere that you would find something, but no, you don't find anything. I use a random weather generator for Greyhawk. Me too. Mine is not the one online, Squirrel Hermit. Mine is the one that's in the second book. But you know how in the Greyhawk box set you get the one book and it's just like all setting, and then you get the other book and it's just all charts. And if you look at that second book with all the charts, it has the weather patterns for every region of Greyhawk and every like season. And of course, when I run Greyhawk, I always run in the Sheldamar Valley. Oh, that's neat. That's neat. Well, the thing is right now I'm playing Tolkien. So where they are, which is in the north, Eberron or Eldaron, whatever it is, it's just mostly wet and rainy. And if we switch over to Talislanta in the future, the Talislantan GM book has like all the weather patterns and wandering monster charts for every single region. So, you know, like if you live in the Nine Kingdoms, especially the southern part of the Nine Kingdoms, it's going to be rain half the time at least because it's a rainforest. I mean, you literally are living in a jungle rainforest. Greyhawk, my beloved, yes. Oh, generate a whole year's worth of weather patterns. I don't know. You're making me think about it, Squirrel Hermit. Now that makes a lot more sense because it's like, what
if somebody wanted to try to predict the weather? Maybe there's a spell for it. I don't know.
There are spells for it.
Yeah. See?
So, and there's also like spells where you can commune with the gods and ask like the gods a question.
Yeah, there's that too.
So what if some players just like, okay, I'm going to commune with my god. And I'm like, okay, you get a question. And they're like, what's the weather going to be like a year and a half from now on a Tuesday? And it's like, wait, what?
It's like, why do you want to know this? This is oddly specific.
It's like, yeah, this is oddly specific on a Tuesday, 1 year from now, in the Sheldamar Valley, in the Principality of Ulick. It's like, are you planning something? What?
Aurora Borealis.
All roads lead to Greyhawk. I would agree with that. Greyhawk is the absolute best setting that was ever made for D&D.
James, here's the best answer for that if somebody asked.
What?
Aurora Borealis.
Yeah. Well, they're trying to track if there's going to be a eclipse or something.
Yeah.
Tom Bombadil is Santa Claus, and I refuse to debate it. You know what? I have no freaking idea what Tom Bombadil is, and I refuse to debate it. So I guess we're at a deadlock there.
Tim Allen is Santa Claus.
Because Tom Bombadil looks like a blend of every race on Middle-earth and is powerful enough to just sing the sun into the sky. Now that's powerful. If you can sing a little ditty and cause the sun to rise when it shouldn't, like it's the middle of the night, but you sing a ditty and the sun pops up. Also, he lived in like one of the most dangerous parts of Middle-earth, and nothing effed with him. You know what I mean? Like nothing. The Borrowites didn't mess with him. Nothing messed with him. Sauron didn't even mess with that guy.
It doesn't sound like he's, Santa Claus. More like he's God.
Tolkien never really went into exactly what the hell Bombadil was.
I know, but these are things that would happen if God was there.
It's incredibly terrible. Like everything in the old forest is terrible and wants to eat you. He's surrounded by undead that also want to eat you. He's got that freaking tree he's always talking to, Old Man Willow, that wants to kill you and eat you. You get the idea that I'm going for here, right?
Yeah. Wizards of the Coast to be fought by...
No, we're not doing that, Iron Man. That's the worst song ever written.
Okay.
John Cougar.
But
Sucking on a chili dog. It's like, shut the fuck up, John Cougar.
what if Wizards of the Coast gets bought out by Elon Musk?
What if?
Things would be more interesting then.
Well, like I said in an earlier video, hopefully they'll fire all the weirdos from Wizards of the Coast, hire some masculine Midwesterners or something like that, you know, and start making good games again.
Yeah.
Because when they were making good games, it was when TSR was being ran by a bunch of masculine Midwestern guys that were, you know, putting out all these adventures. And then, you know, and not to say there can't be women involved. There can, obviously.
Yeah.
But this bullshit they're doing now where they're trying to get rid of masculinity and replace it with basically overly masculine women. I mean, it's just not working for me, guys. It's just not a thing that works for me. I can't respect it, you know? And, you know, it is what it is, you know? Do I love Darlene's map? Yes, I love Darlene's map. I love everything PB Breeding ever drew for Tauslanta. So there's two ladies that I can say absolutely I loved all their work.
And their work is definitely better than what Wizards of the Coast doing.
Right. But that said, if you're going to make adventures, I mean good adventures, not coffee house adventures, I think a little bit of the masculine energy needs to be there, you know? A little bit of Conan needs to be involved. I guess is what I'm saying, you know. Bombadil represents the power of nature. Yeah, he might. I mean, I know that when getting back to the Tolkien thing, since we're all over the place, I know that when Frodo mentioned maybe leaving the ring with Bombadil, Gandalf is like, nah, you can never leave it with him because he would put it down and forget about it. Because that's how Bombadil is. Plus, the dude is literally married to like the daughter of the river. Like, what is that? You know, I mean,
Oh crap!
I've looked in a lot of Tolkien stuff, and I've never found.
I'm gonna
the
have to get off
daughter
here
of
now.
any
I'll
river.
see ya.
You're going to take off?
Yeah.
Why?
I got. I think groceries are about to be here soon.
Oh, okay.
I'll see ya.
Thanks for joining me, Leth. The only thing that you can say about Bombadil is he is something very, very far outside of anything we know. Whether he is one of the Maya or possibly even the creator God himself that just decided to take a form. These are things that we will never be able to know. And that is really the mystery of Tom Bombadil. You know, him and his big yellow boots, I think, and his blue cloak and his big ass hat with a feather in it and all that. I mean, really, Bombadil is like nothing else on Middle Earth. And cannot be compared to anything on Middle Earth. Hey, Crafting Gamer, how you doing, homie? And cannot be compared to anything on Middle Earth. But unfortunately, like Gandalf said, he doesn't pay attention to shit. So you can't count on Bombadil for anything. I mean, if you could have counted on Tom Bombadil, then the Fellowship of the Ring could have just went to Bombadil and been like, hey, you want to walk with us into Mordor so we can chuck this ring in a mountain, right? And if Bombadil was trustworthy and everything, he'd have been like, yeah. And no one could have stopped him. How to buy Tauslanta in Costa Rica? The easiest way would be to go to DriveThruRPG and buy the PDFs. Because I don't know, like these books, I don't know if they actually intend to sell these books or if you had to do the Kickstarter to get them. I'm not 100% sure. Now, if you don't care if it's the Epic Edition and you would just want to look at Tauslanta, type in Tauslanta into your web browser, and there will be a web page where you can download every edition of Tauslanta for free in PDF. You know, some of them look better than others, but I mean, hey, at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's free games, like 4 editions of the game, and all of the you know, all of the stuff that goes with it. So the spell books, the bestiaries, all of it. Because the guy who makes Tauslanta at this point, he's just like, hey, you know, go nuts, right? I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there who talk about buying PDFs and printing them. I don't know how to do that. So, yeah. Like the one time I tried to print a PDF, the freaking web page was like, you can't do this. But see, even though I own the book, I have all 3 books on my computer, and I spend a lot more time reading them on my computer. You know, because I can put the I can put the thing on to make it where it don't hurt my eyes. It blocks the blue light or the red light or whatever. And then I can just read it, and the pages are just as big as the book pages. So, you know, like the other day when I made the 20 odd Tauslanta characters, I just sat down with my computer and a hardboard with a pencil and started making characters, you know. And yeah, it was super. Well, making characters for Tauslanta is like one of the easiest things you can do, you know. It really is. It's so freaking easy that, you know, barely even an inconvenience, as they say. What books do I want to, do I need to buy for Tauslanta? Well, if you actually are wanting to buy the Epic Edition, the only one you really, really need is the Player's Handbook core book. It has most of the info that you're going to need. See, this is art by PB Breeding. I think this is from 2nd edition. And that's supposed to be the wizard Talisman, who came from somewhere and arrived in Tauslanta by traveling through a mist. And then decided, since he was there, he would spend all of his time journeying around and trying to understand the mystery that is the world of Tauslanta. iNote X I have is wonderful, designed specifically for reading. But if you just want to look at Tauslanta before spending any money, Jose, just go to the webpage that I mentioned, and you can, because the rules, other than like the timeline, the rules are the same, basically. In the Epic Edition, a lot of archetypes that you could play that it never really made sense that you could play them, they got rid of. Like you can't play Rachnids anymore. Well, that's good, because Rachnids were pretty much water scorpions that ran around. You can get by with the Tauslantian Player's Guide Epic Edition. Yes, that's really all you need. Now, if at some point you decide, well, F this, I want, you know, the GM's Guide, which is what this is. It's the Atlas and GM's Guide. Then maybe you buy that. But you don't need it. This is just it. See how it's got all the names of the kingdoms? So pretty much what this book does is it describes all the names of the various kingdoms within Tauslanta, and there are a lot of them, as you can tell. And then it goes through history, etc., which is good. You know, the uprising of the Beastmen. Then you get your big map. Right down here's the 9 kingdoms. This region right here, all these kingdoms are the 9 kingdoms. And then see the airships. This would be the city, the capital of Cimmeria, and like 90% of the population of Cimmeria are mages to one degree or another. So you got the 9 kingdoms, the 9 walls, and it talks about the different areas, the government. That is the character my wife chose to play. That is a Cimmerillian sword mage. So she can do magic, but she's also really good with a sword. And, you know, describes a bunch of areas. Let's go through it. And then at some point here, it'll have all of the wandering monster charts. You know, the Jasper Mountains. There's the city of Cimmeral. And, you know, so it'll let you know, like, the gates. And in the center, that's where, like, the main government buildings are. And then you've got all the merchant quarters and everything like that. And then you've got random encounters in Cimmeral. And then along the roads and in the woods and blah, 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 blah. Is it needed? No, it's not needed. You don't need it. Is it kind of cool to have? Yeah, it's kind of cool to have. Bombadil's wife represents the flow of nature, time, water, etc. Possibly. I know that whenever she wanted to do the laundry, Bombadil would sing the rain into the sky, and she would do the laundry in the rain. And then when she was done with that, Bombadil would sing it to sunlight, like sunshine, and that way she could hang the laundry up and it would dry. Yep, you can drive through RPG. Now, whether, like I said, they'll ever release the books for just general sell, I can't say. I don't know. Because it was kind of like it wasn't even done by Kickstarter. It was done by, like, you know, some other version of Kickstarter. And according to the guy who wrote Talislanta, like all the rules, Sechi is his last name. This is it. This is the last final ultimate edition. There will be no more. But like I said, you could get second edition and play all the Talislanta you ever wanted for free. Just go to the Talislanta library area, which is, you know, a webpage, and download the second edition stuff and play as much as you want. Because, again, the rules didn't really change. Hey, Off Grid, how you doing, homie? The rules didn't really change for Talislanta, which, I mean, some people will say that that's an amazing thing. Some people will say that's horrible. But it is a fact that throughout since the 80s, Talislanta's rules have really never changed. It's always just been, you know, the same kind of, they might change the setting. You know, you might have to play during the War of the Beastmen and whatever, but the actual rules have always been the same. So Zadarok painted her first 28 miniature yesterday. Just a few finishing touches and she will be finished. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. Zadarok, is that like your nickname for your wife or what? Oh, what other books do you need to expand off the Player's Guide? Well, the 3 Epic Edition books are the GM's Guide and the Bestiary. And they're the Epic Edition books. But like I keep telling you, Jose, there's a webpage where everything he did prior to this is free to download. So, you know, like me, I think I might even have them download on a zip drive. But in this thing right here, I have them all hardbound, like the original Tauslanta stuff, because I am that weirdo, you know, like that one guy in the game store that's like, I love Tauslanta, and I think we should play Tauslanta all the time. And like all the other gamers are like, geez, give it a rest. Nobody gives a shit about Tauslanta. And I'm like, but I really like it. Yeah, that was me. That was me. I was that guy. Now, Hungar, having looked at the Tauslanta stuff, he's like down to clown. You know what I mean? Oh, that's her YouTube handle. Nice. You don't really need it, but it does describe a shit ton of the monsters that live in Tauslanta. And so it's the monster manual for the game. And there are a lot. And some of them are really weird. Like really, really weird. As a matter of fact, there are player characters that you could actually, if your GM allows you to play, that don't even come from Tauslanta. They come from like the underworld and shit like that. Like one of them, the Tau Assassin, is a completely blind, mostly women, but they can be males. They wear blindfolds over their eyes, but they have a special magical ability that allows them to see. And not only can they see just as good as any human, they have dark vision. They can see ethereal creatures, ghosts, anything, invisible, whatever. They can see it all. And they come from this parallel realm to Tauslanta, specifically to kill things that are supposed to die, but found a way not to. The old battle axe. Yeah. Yeah. My wife is out buying her Christmas tree. But she used to do a lot of painting for me, especially with my Chaos Army for Warhammer. She would do a lot of that. So having a spouse that's into some of the hobbies you're into is like the best thing ever. Like cannot be beat. 100%. It really is. Like, you know, like my wife and I love my wife very much, and I know she loves me, but it also helps her put up with my shenanigans in that we're both gamers. So that helps a lot. You know what I mean? If I'm out here doing weird shit, or I'm spending an hour or 2 or 3 or however many live streaming or painting miniatures and stuff, she's a lot more likely to be understanding about it. Whereas my ex-wives, because either one of them, I had 2, because they were not gamers, they absolutely hated any time I spent doing the hobby. Like, if whatever I was doing was not something specifically for them, they hated it. You know what I mean? So if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, get a gamer girl to make her your wife. That's my personal guarantee. Yeah. Yep. Marry gamer girl. And if she's not a gamer girl when you marry her, make sure she's willing to learn. Right? And you'll be a lot happier. You will be a lot happier. Yeah, I mean, if instead of beating around the bush, I mean, yeah, just get the 3 core books. Because that's all there is. The 3 core books. Once you got the 3 core books, you are done. That's it. And, you know, like, I don't know why I was being the whole, you really only need this or that, and you're asking questions. And I wasn't being helpful. Thank goodness Squirrel was here. Because, yes, just get the 3 core books and you're done. If you've got the money, just do that. Done. You ain't got to worry about it anymore. The thing is I don't like trying to talk people into spending their hard-earned money, especially on something that they may not end up loving the way I do. So that's why I was kind of being a jerk about it. But Squirrel Hermit's totally right. Get the 3 books. You're done. You never have to buy another book again. And you can play all the Taos Lanta you want for all time. And, you know, whatever, you know, and that's basically it. You're done. No more Taos Lanta books for you, because there are no more Taos Lanta books. You know, actually, there's a novel, but that's going a bit above and beyond. Like, do you really want the novel? Because there is a novel set in Taos Lanta about a witch hunter or something like that. Because one of the classes you can play is called the Zenebrian Witch Hunter. And their whole deal is there was an ancient race that did them really, really bad and then figured out a way to not die by reincarnating. So the Zenebrians kind of, their whole deal is they try to catch those wizards when they've reincarnated and kill them permanently. That's kind of their whole gig, right? And you could, in fact, play that as a character. The negative would be if you got the premonition that one of the wizards had reincarnated, then the rest of the player character group has to go with you, or otherwise you are leaving them, because that will always be your number one motivation, to hunt those undying wizards down and kill them permanently. But if the rest of the PC group is willing to go along with it, it's all good and hood then. You know what I'm saying? Probably don't want to make anyone from the Am Empire, because they are very, very religious, and they pretty much think every other person, religion, etc. in the whole world of Taos Lanta are heretics. So I've talked about that a couple times. Somebody might see a picture of an Ammonite paladin and think, damn, that guy looks badass in his white lacquered armor and his shield and his sword or whatever. And it's like, that guy is awesome, right? Except if the rest of the group isn't full of Ammonites, or there's some really good reason for this guy to be hanging out with non-Ammonites, then you're going to have to figure out what the hell he's doing with these heretics, and why the Inquisition of the church he's a member of is not hunting him down to kill him, because that's what they do, you know. So yeah, so there are some classes, archetypes, etc., that you are allowed to play. But then you got to ask yourself, okay, you're allowed to play it, but should you? You know, kind of like in Jurassic Park, you know, just because you can do it doesn't necessarily mean you should do it. And it's like that. Nerdy Ogre, what's up, my bro? How you doing? I agree, Squirrel Hermit, but when I was young, I did not know better. And I think I was, as my brother Hungar always says, a bit booty blind. That's the word he would use. I mean, you know, one thing I can say is I never married an unattractive woman. All the women I married, at least when I married them, were freaking hotties. You know, my Puerto Rican wife with the giant, you know, boobas and all that. But you know, crazy, just crazy people. But yeah, those are the 3, the average Imperium fan, right? Those are the 3 books, though. And once you have them, like I could click right here and I could do a little run through of the bestiary, which is all color art, looks really nice. You can, let me set up for no spread so that the pictures are bigger. And then I need to go back to where Restream is and hit share window. Boop, boop, boop. Share window, Tauslanta, Epic Edition. There we go. And then I become super tiny. I hit hide that, and then I become super tiny in a corner. And that is one of the demon queens or something like that. So, a monster. I'll see if the low price of absolutely free is enough to entice my dumbass friends into playing something. Yeah, the low price, because you're 100% right. If you go to Tauslanta, the webpage, the low price is free. It's absolutely free. You can download whichever of the first 4 editions suits your fancy, and then you can play it and whatever. Now, this is PB Breeding. You can see right there, illustrated by. This is her bestiary for like 2nd edition, I believe. That's one of the, a multi-headed dragon thing. But then when you get into this, I will tell you this. Some of the monsters are like, whatever, and some of them are absolutely weird, like the Abomination. It can kind of look like anything, and their stats vary. So it's like, okay, that's weird. The Atra, that's kind of just a type of reptilian camel thing. Because there are no horses in Tauslanta. The closest they have to a horse is called an equus. And no, it's not a horse. This thing right here, the Andrak, it's basically a mix between a giant spider and a demon. Ability level 14 to 20. That means this thing can probably just kill you. You're in trouble. Yeah. That's how you read it. The ability level of a monster gives you a basic idea of how nasty it is. This is the Arborin, which is forest demons. The Armadont, which you can actually train these guys if you want. Put a howdah on it. Yeah, these guys, Banes, they're just vampires. They live in the weirwood, and they're vampires. Some fish people. Here's the desert beast, 6-legged rhino that you can use as a beast of burden, a war beast. So just showing you some of the monsters, the blood spawn. It's a parasite. Think rotworm or rot grub. Boggins, they're little assholes that live in the forest and will be assholes. The cat drak. Very, very imaginative name, because it's basically like a mix between a dragon and a cat. The Colossus, which is a super tall, big, gigantic automaton. Most of them are no longer functioning, and they're just part of the terrain now. But they were created by the ancient Archaeans, thousands of years ago. Cryptworm, look at that thing. Like a centipede, but with a skull for a head. Disembodied spirits, dragons, So yeah, this is the thing you will end up writing, an equus. There's many types of equus, and they're basically like a horse, except they're more reptilian than they are mammalian. So yeah. And a lot of archetypes actually begin the game with like an Equus mount. So, you know, when you want weird monsters, check out one of the, Arduin. I know Shadow loves Arduin. Garlic bread golem. That is weird. That sounds like something that Venger would have in a game of his. Like, you know how he had banana people and strawberry people? Well, why not garlic bread people? You know, let's just go all out with it, right? Why even mess around? Just do it. Because, I mean, why not? I mean, and if that's your style of play, it is. See, the thing with Taos Lenta, though, don't get it twisted. It doesn't have to be Gonzo. You can play Taos Lenta straight. It's just that there are a lot of crazy freaking creatures that live in Taos Lenta, most of which want you dead. And they do not look like any sort of earth type animal. Like almost all of the creatures in Taos Lenta are literally their own thing. Now, where you could say that differs is some of the birds just look like birds, you know. But yeah. And again, if you look really hard at the Taos Lenta map, you'll see that it's North America. But most of Canada and all of Mexico are just gone. So is Taos Lenta an alternate dimension or the Earth, you know, tens of thousands, even millions of years in the future? That's maybe up to you to figure out, but it doesn't affect anything. One of the common things that any lore master or anyone who knows history in Taos Lenta will know is that at some point, thousands upon thousands of years ago, there were two great empires, the Archaeans and the Phaedrons, and they went to war and they unleashed no end of bullshit on each other. And also they mutated animals, you know, to make the subhumans and like different warrior races and shit like that. They made, you know, some automatons. So they, you know, it's the same story as ever. Two really technological and magical empires go to war and then use all of their power to create all kinds of horrible shit and then get wiped out by the shit they created. And then millennia passes and new kingdoms rise and fall, and some creatures that were, you know, designed just to be slave warriors are now, you know, independent creatures like the Thrall. You know, the Arduin, which are the bird people that live in the Nine Kingdoms, their big problem is they're evolving into humanoids. So they're losing their ability to fly. It's like as the generations keep turning, they become more and more humanoid and less bird-like. And it's freaking with them. You know what I mean? So yeah. Like the green ones can't fly at all. They can just glide a very short distance. The blue ones still have the ability to glide for longer distances, but neither type of these guys can actually fly. Knock issue 4 ordered and en route. And OSC, I love OSC Advanced. It is a great game. OSC Advanced is a brilliant game. If you want that old school AD&D feeling, but you want like Moldvay Cook rules, simplicity, you know. And when I play OSC Advanced, I don't play races class. I play them differently. But I do enforce the class limits. So if you're going to play a halfling and you want to be a fighter, you can do it, but you can never advance above 4th level. You know, and if that's something you're willing to do, then by all means, my man, you do it. You do it. So anyway, guys, I actually added the second stay cell. I still need to put the anchor line on it, but there you go. So that's all the cells. And like I said, the next time I make myself some good old black tea, I need to paint all the cells with it so that they just look kind of, you know, aged, dirty, whatever. Races classes superior in Adventure Conqueror King only. Muktuk, I agree with that. Adventure Conqueror King, the fact that every race has like 4 or 5 classes that are all unique, except of course for gnomes. Do I consider Castles and Crusades OSR? It's definitely old school, even though it uses 3rd edition rules mostly. But I would say it's like 3rd edition rules, but the way that the game is played, it's got a very old school feeling to it. But when I played Castles and Crusades, and I ran that game for like a year and a half, I did away with the siege system and just had everybody roll verse attributes. I actually used the Dungeoneer and Wilderness survival guides with Castles and Crusades, because a lot of my players at that time had been 3rd edition players. So it was really easy to get them to try Castles and Crusades, since, you know, it's basically 3rd edition rules. But Squirrel says no, he don't think it's OSR. See, and that really depends, because some people say in order for a game to be a OSR, it has to be derived from like Moldvay, Cook, Metzer, Holmes, etc. What I just said, Nerdy Ogre. Some people say it has to be derived from like the original TSR D&D. But then that leaves behind the fact that there were tons of games that were out at the same time. Like, is Talislanta OSR? I mean, it's definitely old school gaming. The game has not changed significantly since the mid-'80s. I mean, this game came out in the mid-'80s and has not significantly changed a bit. So, but it's not based at all on any version of TSR D&D. And of course, you could say, what about Classic Traveler, which came out in like 78 or 79? Hasn't really significantly changed. Still around. If I were stuck with one OSR or OSR derived game, it would probably be OSC Advanced. Honestly. Even though the most complete game would probably be the Rules Cyclopedia. Since, I mean, you know, but I like OSC Advanced a lot. But then a lot of times, the best thing about OSC Advanced is if you want to use any part of AD&D with OSC Advanced, you can. It will graft right on seamlessly. So if you're like me and you like the characters to have non-weapon proficiencies, OSC Advanced handles that shit, no problem. If you like to use the Carrion Crawler Edition 1 rules on how to do thieves, which just means all the thief skills are on a die 6. And the character begins the game with 4 pips. So basically 0 skill in all their things. But then you can assign the pips to skills. So I think you get 1. So a thief character could, in theory, put all 4 pips into 1 thief skill and start out with a 1 in 6 chance of every thief skill except for that one, which would be a 5 in 6 chance. And then every time you level up, you get 2 more pips that you can add. By the time you hit level 20, you're a master thief and you mostly got 4 or 5 in your thief skills and you're ready to go. Harn came out in the early 80s. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people, when they say OSR, they're talking Osric, Labyrinth Lord, OSE, I guess. They're specifically talking about games that were designed to emulate TSR games in a time when you weren't supposed to be able to do it. Because when I very first picked up Labyrinth Lord, there was no game license and all that bullshit. You know what I mean? Proctor, the guy who did Labyrinth Lord and also was a big part of Osric, he just put that shit out and relied on the fact that it was different enough from D&D that they wouldn't come after him, I guess. See, my favorite books from TSR are AD&D First Edition Dungeon Master's Guide, Wilderness Survival Guide, Dungeoneer Survival Guide. As a DM, those 3 books are my trifecta. Those are the ones I use. Yeah, and OSR means different things. It can be the old school Renaissance, the old school revival, the whatever. I mean, I've heard it said like 100 different ways. Hell, if you watched Double D last night, and I think most of you did, J. Scott Garrity calls the OSR a bunch of monsters playing horrible, bigoted games. And if you let them talk you into playing the game, then you're a monster too. But then again, does anybody really take Scott Garrity seriously? No. But him arguing, and I talked about that in one of my videos, because Scott Garrity's arguing like in old D&D, women were not represented correctly. And I'm like, how should they be represented? Milkmaids, bakers, housewives? Because if you want to represent women correctly in a fantasy medieval game, they're probably not warriors because they would get crushed. You know, 140-pound woman walks out on the battlefield and some, 240-pound, 6-foot something Slav armored up with a great axe is going to kill her. So, yeah, I am a monster. Bless his heart. He is touched. He is a bit touched, Bubba. And it's a bit weird.
How many times have you served the chili, babe?
Like every, 30 minutes or so.
Is it okay?
Well, there's some stuff stuck to the bottom.
I didn't over mess with it. I like the old school Renaissance. The term wording sounds cool. Yeah, revival is what some people were calling it. So it's like Gen X, Gen Y, Boomer. There's no real definition. No, there really isn't. And like a lot of people, right? There was a time when some people referred to me as like the bishop of the OSR. And by some people, I mean Max Lau. But then the last couple of years, I've played like Vampire, the Masquerade and stuff. And I'm playing a lot of free league games and stuff like that. So I am definitely not an OSR guy. But I do love OSC Advanced. Definitely, 100%. But yeah, I'm sitting here talking about playing a game that literally just came out a week or so ago. So straight white guys, that seems to be the thing. I hope they get sued since they let it out of the bag that they were openly being prejudiced against straight white guys, I hope some straight white guy with a lot of money just rolls in and sues the shit out of them. Like, I couldn't get this job because they specifically said people of my race and et cetera, sexuality or whatever can't get this job. I mean, that's illegal. That's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. But apparently, because it's targeted towards a certain one particular demographic, people are willing to let it fly. And it's like, no, we shouldn't let it fly. It should be called out every time. But all that said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. It's been 2 hours. So I'm going to get off and go do stuff for my wife and whatever. Peace and love, guys. Thanks for spending the time. I have actually figured out how to put videos on my channel again. So if you want to look at any of those, they're just me rambling about role-playing games. And if you want to hit me up, just, you know the deal. Thumbs up, comment, all that stuff. And I will catch you next time. Yes, we have to be the men of the West. Numenorians.